Devious. Crispers.
Like, you know, the super.
They're like squares.
That I gave you, for some reason, Lois.
I think so. Yeah, no walkie-talkie.
I've never done it. I've done it like, they give me the sheet and then you highlight, like, okay, I maybe. put it
Oh,
in
yeah,
pink.
that, you need a paper copy to do that.
Right, but when I know, but they could upload it and you could edit it and highlight it, they could do that.
Yeah, but now that everything's in Danielson, it's better that it's all in one spot. Because before, we did do that, and then it was a separate sheet for something else, and something else. It was like, I actually like that everything's in one spot.
But then I'm like, in all of it, you know, like there may be parts of that that I'm not.
Right, so overall,
I am.
yeah.
I'm like,
Where's more of their evidence of Casey?
That's what I would,
I just did four.
that's, I believe all we need.
I sent a chat and said we're gonna be starting in 3 minutes and said wear your cool shades if you have them. The VP at NAMPO's like, you can't tell us to wear your shades and wear our shades and not have yours on. So I'm like,
Am I just doing it on my
You have to
buttons?
I think I'm just on life and how you're doing. That's what I was also under the interpretation.
I feel like
That's how you're doing.
I am hanging in there.
It wasn't on the. It's just how you're
Okay,
doing.
so can everyone hear me?
Yeah, how's it going?
All right, well, I guess we'll get started. So I'm gonna wave to the camera. So I am Melissa Higgy, and hi to everyone here. I'm from Overdrive, and we are gonna talk about Sora, the student reading app. And we're gonna do a demo and presentation. I have a lot of information to share with you. So feel free to chat in for our virtual locations with any questions. And everybody in the room, feel free to just pop in if you have questions, and we'll have some time at the end for questions as well. So I'm going to kick things off with giving you some context into what this is, and we're going to show you how to use it and everything you need to know as a teacher, essentially how to use this reading app. So I forgot to, that I had a slide on this. So my picture is there, although I think most of you can see me. And my colleague Bo's here too. He's not with us, but you have a photo of him. He's on our team, so just wanted to have that there for you. And I can send a copy of this presentation, which has my contact information for everyone as well. So we're your team. We work with you to help you guys use these reading tools in the classroom, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So the goal for today is to really ensure that you as a teacher learn how to use these tools to help your students engage with digital content in the classroom. For those of you that are teaching, in a physical building outside of the classroom, for those of you that are teaching online, and also for all of our students at home too. This can be used for school use and for personal use. So I'm hoping we'll help you guys get excited about this and more informed about what this digital content thing is. So to kick things off, let me explain what we're doing. So through your schools, you have access to ebooks and audiobooks from Overdrive. So there's a collection of titles that your school has purchased and that you have access to. And some of you have probably used the Overdrive app before. And if you have, that's great. That's still here. What we're going to talk about today is our new Sora reading app, which is a lot easier to use for students and has more classroom features built into it. So if you've never used a digital ebook or audiobook, I wanted to back up and talk a little bit about why we would use this. Why do students like digital content? Why are teachers using this more often? So a couple reasons. It can be accommodating. As I'm sure you all know, I saw everyone has laptops. We're using technology every day. We're meeting students where they already are by using digital. So your kids are on their smartphones at home, playing games, reading social media, all sorts of things, and this is designed to meet them where they are. It can be personalized, so students that maybe need access to an audiobook so that they can listen to the text while they're reading a print book or even while they're reading a digital book. You can also use this in different ways through an ebook. I'm going to show you some of the tools where students can personalize the experience. And private, so digital reading is pretty private, so there are ways that you as a teacher can assign books and you're going to know what a student is reading, but also students have access to many other titles available to them that they can read privately on their own. And I've seen schools use digital content to build up collections on, tough topics for kids where they may feel, a little hesitant to read a book where they're showing that cover and it's like a book on anxiety, but reading a digital book, no one knows what you're reading. It's accessible, and I'm going to share with you some of these tools on how you can use this just to create that different type of reading experience for your kids. And cross-curricular, as you'll see, there are going to be, there's a lot of content you can use to support any area of the curriculum. So if you're an English language arts teacher, that's pretty obvious, this is reading, but there's also content to support science teachers, social studies, history, any area that you're looking to use this with. And I just wanted to share, this is an infographic we put together just on some statistics on why digital is important, just to have in your back pocket as you're using this with your kids, as you're using it and hopefully sharing it with their parents. So just some of the data here, just about how students are taking more tests online, and I'm sure you all are experiencing this too. They're wanting to use mobile devices and some of the other data here. And just what we're seeing from schools that are implementing more with digital, and that's what we're doing here. We're trying to create more awareness and more usage of the digital collection already available to you. So what is Sora? So when you all logged in or came in, on the screen we have Sora, which had a character. The character is not Sora, the app's Sora. The character doesn't really have a name, but that's the new reading app. So if you've used Overdrive in the past, we have the Overdrive app. You might have used it to sign in, borrow ebooks or audiobooks from the digital collection or from your public library, and that's great. You've been doing that. Over the summer, we released Sora, which is designed to be used with students for the classroom as also for pleasure reading. So we wanted to make an experience that was easier for students to use notes and highlights, for example, a place for teachers to assign books to students, which I'll share too, and also reading stats, achievements, and a few other things. So I'm going to show you all of these tools that I have listed here. Now, why we did it, I'm not going to go through all of this today, but we did it for a lot of reasons. We wanted our approach to be more data-driven, which is why you'll see that we have more data on student reading. We wanted to approach it from this holistic approach where we're seeing students are using it for pleasure reading. You can use this for instructional, and then there's so many different areas. So you guys right now are using it for primarily reading, maybe some instructional purposes, engaging with your students, and there's a lot more we can do. So I just wanted to share kind of that background on why we did it. So I'm going to get into the demo part. So anyone listening online or here, you are welcome to play around with it while I go in. I'll kind of walk you through the process, or you can just listen, take it in, ask your questions whenever you want. But if you want to try it, you can either download it on the App Store, or you can go to soraapp.com, and you can see the link here. These are just steps on how you can get started with it. So you won't need a school code since you all are at your buildings. Ideally, it should pop up and you'll pick a location, and I'll show you that. And we'll go through how you can read and listen. So let me get over to the demo. Okay.
Yeah, most of you should be able to access this through your Clever dashboard. You'll see a new app on your Clever dashboard that says Sora.
Great, thank you, Lori, because I
got
forgot
there
about
from
that.
Overdrive.
It
says
says
Drive.
overdrive.
It says
but it has
Overdrive, but
the
it's the new
the
picture of Sora.
Oh.
Oh, yes, yeah, good point, good point. So yeah, so you're going to see, you might see Overdrive, you might see Sora, one and the same. Sora is, and if you see this character, the newer experience. So that's what we're gonna go through today. You can see here, if you just started it up, it may have you find your school with like a location finding. I've already located myself here and I'm gonna log in. So you're gonna log in through Clever. So whether you go to Sora directly or you go through Clever, that's your login. You'll see that when I click here. And then I can pick if I'm at Gen Prep, IDEA, or other staff. Since I'm not at any of these schools, I'm in the other staff category. And I'm just a guest today, so you're just gonna log in. You guys are gonna see your Clever login, so it'll be a little bit different. But this should be very similar once you log in. So now, if you or your students have borrowed books on Overdrive already, they're going to be in Sora. So you might see them here if you have anything currently borrowed, which I think probably some of you do. So you can see here when I got in on my homepage, I have an assignment, which I'm going to tell you all how to do. And I have some loans. These are some books that I borrowed personally. I have a few other things here I'm going to go through in just a minute once I show you some of the tools. But we take, when the student goes into Sora, if they have books available to them, they're on that homepage first so they can access it right away. The idea is that if you're in a class and you want a student to get into a book, we want them to take like 1 or 2 clicks. We don't want you to have to spend your time, going through finding a book, all these different steps. It has to be very simple. So for example, if I'm in my class where I'm reading the Jungle Book, I signed into Sora, I click open book, I'm into the book and I can keep reading. It took me hardly any time at all so that I can get in here. So if you're familiar with an ebook reader, the tools in here are very similar. You just scroll through, you tap on the side of the page to continue through. When I tap in the middle of the page, this is when I get my menu options. So the primary menu options are in the top right corner. This is called a hamburger icon, and you can just click it and we get a lot of different options here. And I'm going to focus on a few that I think will be important for you as teachers to utilize. So you can see obviously the table of contents, the chapters, if you've made bookmarks, my reading history. Reading settings are where students can personalize their experience. So when I go in here, this is when I can change the text scale. So we can make it smaller, we can make it bigger, we can change that lighting as well. And then we do have font options. So some of these are just for preference. I can change it to this paperback font, a scholar font. The Open Dyslexic font I like to highlight because this is a great tool for students that have dyslexia. So when I select that font, I'm going to click back into the book. You can see that the font has special weight on the letters, either on the top or bottom or on the sides. This is a font that was created by an open dyslexic organization. It's an open source font that we've used, and we've had some schools find some success with it with students where they've had trouble reading digitally or maybe even reading in print, and this has helped some of them to have a better experience. May not work for everyone, but it's something that is a tool available for those students to try. I'm going to go back and change it to a standard font. So I'm just going to click that Publisher's Default for the rest of this here. So that's one of the tools inside the menu. I wanted to also share with you when you're in a book, when you've opened up a book, some of the tools available to the students where they can interact with the text. So for example, if you think of a student when they're reading a print book and you want them to take notes, maybe they're using sticky notes, they're actually highlighting or writing in the book. If it's their own copy, they're keeping notes on a separate piece of paper. You can take notes in a digital book and these will stay with you. So even when the book is back in the collection, I'm done reading it, it got returned, no longer using it, I can still access my notes and highlights, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So to take a note or a highlight, you're going to do a long press. You just press and hold till the blue pops up, and then I can drag and release. And then I'm going to click highlight. I get to pick a color, and then I can take my notes. Okay, and then I can just, in the same way, I can just go ahead and just choose to highlight. I don't have to take a note, and then I can click out. I can also use, you probably saw there was a dictionary tool, so I can press and release, and I can define. And this opens up a dictionary within the book so that students aren't having to go out to Google or some other tool to understand what the word means. There is also a translation tool in here as well that the student can click, and it'll translate the word into many different languages using Google Translate. So not a perfect tool, but again, saves them from having to go out to a separate thing, and then they're distracted and they're no longer reading. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this book. I wanted to kind of give you that first intro, and as you can see here, I made a highlight and I received a badge for doing so. If you guys have been trying Sora, you have seen that you earn badges, and I'll show you where students can check all of their badges. I've got one for making a highlight, and I've received one for making a note, and I have 5 achievements now too. I've got quite a few there. So that is a book, and I'm going to take a step back and show you how do I get a book. So that was, I already had a book in my account, but how do I get a book? So I have the Explorer page here, and as you can see as I scroll through, we have collections set up. We've got popular reading, we've got some comics, we have books that have been made into movies, fairy tales, the lists go on and on and on. There's a lot of titles available to you in ebook or audiobook format. Now you can tell if a book is an audiobook, and I know I saw some up here, because you'll see the headphones on the cover image, and that means the student can listen to the book versus reading it as I've shown you with the ebook. So students can browse, they can come here and just look through, click on a book, and then they'll get the details, and you can see different leveling options. You can see this data. I can just go ahead and borrow the book and start reading, and it'll be the same experience I just showed you. Or when I go back to Explore, if you notice in the top left corner, I can search. So I can search for something specific. Let's say I want to read some Jane Austen. I can just type that in. I can start borrowing what's available to me. I'm going to go back and I'm going to do that again, but I'm going to use my advanced search. So the advanced search gives you many different options to help filter the search by different subject areas. If I want to look at ebooks versus audiobooks, for example, in the format, and a few different options here. So I could select one of these, click search, and again, it's going to filter the search. And I do have some options to refine my preferences for sorting, languages, other options here, or I can refine over here, which will show me only what's available, because if you think of your ebooks, a lot of these are like print books. There's 1 copy, there's 2 copies, it's available to 1 person or 2 people at a time. So I can click this and it's only going to show me what's available so I can read right away. So this is great if you use this as a tool, for students reading in class. You want to take 15 minutes to spend reading. You could tell them, go in, click and see what's available now and borrow it and start reading. And that way, again, you're saving time. Okay, I'm going to go back to Explore. So I wanted to highlight, when you click on Explore, you can see all of the collections by clicking this collections menu. And we do have, where to go, Project Gutenberg. So Project Gutenberg titles are a lot of your public domain. So you saw I had the Jungle Book, there's the Jane Austen novels, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So I mention these books because these books are available in unlimited copies since they're in the public domain. So these are great if you're looking for a book for students as a whole class to do for a read. So you can click into Project Gutenberg and you can look through here. We've got Little Women, Frankenstein, Wizard of Oz. These are all sorts of titles in the public domain that have unlimited copies available that are great for a classroom read. You can see a lot of popular titles here. Okay, did want to show an audiobook as well. What I'm gonna do is, though, I already have a couple books on my shelf. So before I borrow an audiobook, I wanted to return one. So that way I have room in my account to borrow that. So I'm gonna go ahead and return the giver. So I borrowed that personally. When you're on your shelf, you see the books that you have in your account, you can click on the options. And this gives a lot of different options for the students. So we can renew the book. If it's close to the end of the time period, you can see I have 28 days for this book. If I'm getting to the end and I still need more time, I can renew it. If no one else is waiting, I can go ahead and return it. If I'm using like my parents' Kindle, I can send it to a Kindle here, and I can view my notes and highlights and other tools. So I'm gonna go ahead and return this. And then I get another badge. And we're gonna go back to Explore and pick an audiobook. So let's do the Giver audiobook since I just returned the ebook. I just click borrow, and again, when I click borrow, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to open that book right away for me so that you're saving time. So with an audiobook, I don't know how loud this will be, so I'm not going to play it just in case it's extremely loud. But when all you have to do is click play. You get the same tools here, your menu. We've got a bookmark tool. With the bookmark though, this is really cool. So if you're teaching a novel and you want to download the audiobook and play it for your class, you just need the one copy. It's just for you. You can play it out loud to your class. But maybe your first class, you got a little bit farther than your second class. You're trying to save your position and remember, okay, left off here for this class, but I left off here for this one. You can take a note in the audiobook at that position. So let's say I got only 4 minutes in. Oops, I'm gonna drag this. Well, let's drag it in. So I got a couple hours into my book with my first class, and I want to save my position. I can click the bookmark and say, maybe I'll put the dates on December 5th, ended here for first period. And that way you can save it, and you can do that for each. And then all you have to do, oh, I did not mean to close the audiobook. Oh, so many achievements. So when you click on the menu in the audiobook, I look at my bookmarks and they're all listed here. So you could see many different ones here for all the different classes. You can keep a teacher's copy, you can create these notes that you have, points that you want to make every year you teach this audiobook, and these stay with you. So even if the audiobook gets returned, you don't use it for another year, those stay with you, so that way in a year you open up the audiobook again, they're all there, so you don't have to take all these other documents and notes to save that. Okay, so let me close that audiobook. We're gonna hop back over to home so you can see exactly where all of those are saved. So when we're back on home, you can see here I have my recently defined words, so this is real time. Anytime I add a definition, I get all of these here. All of my definitions for any one I've ever did in the books. This is great for vocabulary, spelling, and I can export these. So that way as a student, I could export it to a PDF, print it out, give it to my teacher, save it as a file, send it to my teacher, email it to them if that's what you wanted to do. Now you can do the same with your notes and highlights. So you see, for example, here's my recent audiobook one I took. Here are a few that I took earlier today. I can click on this, and again, I can export all of these. I'll actually show you what it looks like as a PDF. So when I export these, I get this nice document. Obviously for the audiobook, we're not going to get the text since there's no visible text, but I do get the text for all of my other titles. I've got the cover image so I know which book and what highlight and what note I took. So this is great for students if they need to save it. And then we even put Sora on there so you know that this came from Sora and it's in the format that you're expecting. Okay, let me show you, for those of you especially teaching some of the younger kids, what we call a read-along ebook. So I have one here. So I borrowed Corduroy earlier. It's like one of my favorite books. You guys have lots of really great books for younger readers. So a read-along is an ebook and an audiobook combined with professional narration. So this isn't like Siri reading the ebook to you. It's oftentimes the author, which is nice. I might try and play this one, we'll see. This one's really nice. So you'll see in some of the picture books that you have, some of these have that audio, and you'll know because it says start narration when you open it. So as you can see, I can scroll through this, beautiful picture book. And if I need some help, maybe I'm not really at my reading level just yet, and I need a little bit of help with this book, I can click start narration, and we'll see if that does it.
The store was always filled.
So you guys
with
might be able to hear it virtually. I don't think we're not hearing it here, but you can see that. I'll pause. If you noticed, as it was reading, it was highlighting the words so the student could follow along. And you still have your menu options, and this is great because you can go ahead and change that narration speed. So if it's reading a little bit too fast for you to follow along with, you can change the speed. You can still change a lot of the settings. You can still take notes and highlights, so you get a lot of those tools, even though this is a picture book. And I'm gonna go back. I think I know I made this earlier today, I updated it. In the collections, all of the read-alongs, it's saying 0 right now, but I'm hoping by later today or tomorrow it updates. There were at least like close to 100, I think, read-along books in the collection. So when that's up, you guys can click on this and all of the read-alongs are available there. Okay, so your shelf, we're getting to close in the demo, and then I have a few other things we're gonna go through and talk about the assignments and other tools. With the shelf, this is where students can see their books. They can open them just like I've been doing. If another student has a copy borrowed of the book and there's no other copies, there are holds, so I don't have any holds right now. Students can make lists of books too, so if they want to keep track of books they'd like to read, maybe for some of your older students, or if their parents want to mark books, as they're reading with them on things they'd like to read together, they can do that in the student's account. And then you also get the activity here on different things, badges, books I've borrowed. Now the Me tab is fun. So when you're in the Me tab, this is personal to the student. So you can see it says your nickname here. I can change it to Melissa and save my name there if I want. I can change my avatar. There's a few options here, and just make it a little bit more personal and fun for me as a student. There is some reading data here. So right now this reading data is personal to the student. We do aggregate the data, and it's available for the administrators for your school to see as a whole, how are we doing? How many hours have we read? How many minutes are we averaging per day, and other data like that. And we're hoping next year that you as teachers will be able to see that individually for students. But for now, you can always have a student pull this up and show them. They can't edit this, they can't change this. We have things in place to make sure that, if a student just leaves an ebook open on their tablet and doesn't actually touch it for an hour, well, we know if they haven't turned a page in an hour, it's unlikely that they're reading, so we kind of cut it off. We don't count that as time. So we've taken a lot of effort to put those safeguards in place. So you can trust this data is pretty accurate to some extent. As you can see, I'm a brand new user, so I've only been reading for 4 minutes, not very much just yet. In my own personal account, I have lots of hours read. So I do, as a student, I can also see my badges here, the achievements I've earned, and then I can see how I can get some of these other ones, which is a way that we're hoping to help motivate kids to keep reading and have fun with it. Now, just a few other tools for you to take a look at. In the menu at the top right that we haven't touched yet, one of the best tools is adding a public library. So many of your local public libraries across the state use Overdrive as well, which is wonderful. So if they do, you can add them here. And let's see, do you guys have, oh wait, we'll just do Boise Public. So you can add your public library into Sora. Now the great thing is, since you might be using this in school, it does protect from the adult titles like 50 Shades of Grey and things you would never want a student to ever read in or out of school. But in school, especially, we're only showing them the kids and teens titles from the public library. There are ways they can access the adult titles outside of this, but since this is our school-based platform, we made that decision to start that way. And then as you can see, I'm in the public library now. It looks the same, so it's going to be easy for your kids to use, but they are going to need a public library card. This isn't going to automatically get them an account there, so that's important to know, and we help them with that. If I try to borrow a book, it asks me to sign in, and then I'm going to have to enter my public library card. So we would have to have that. But then it gets saved in here just like with Sora, so you can borrow books from both collections. And then the really cool thing, I just love this. Now when I search, I can say search all of my libraries. So I can search my school library and my public library all together. So if I'm looking for something specific, maybe the school hasn't purchased yet, or maybe the public library doesn't own, but my school does, I get it all in one search so that I can find those books. So I usually like to search for, I was reading these books recently, Throne of Glass series. So you guys don't have these are a little bit older titles, more mature I should say, but the public library does their teen titles. And then I can go and borrow these if I'm looking for those. Now a few of the other settings for the menu here are just device settings, so students can change options for holds for their device, and these are just personal. And there is a help page, so this is great. So if a student comes to you and they're saying like, I tried this, it didn't work, or I'm having all of these issues and won't open my book, they can come here, send a message, and they can get help. So if they're under 13, they are gonna need either you or their parent to give an email so we can actually write to them, but they can get a lot of help that way, and that way you're not just stuck with no way to help them. Okay, I don't know if we have any questions. Do you guys have any questions in here?
The audiobooks, is there a way to send those to a device? I don't see that option on.
That's a good question. There isn't. So if you
Just use the app one.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're wanting to maybe download an audiobook for offline use, then you would want to download the app. That way you can download it. And if you use the app, ebooks and audiobooks are downloaded automatically offline for you right when you open it. So that way if you go on an airplane, or maybe you don't have Wi-Fi at home, or you're going somewhere where you don't have it, you can download it, still read and listen to that book. So yeah, that's a good question about that.
We have a question in
Okay,
Nampa.
so let me show you one more thing in Sora. So when we first went in here, you saw I had an assignment and I had a loan. So you may be wondering as a teacher, how do I actually assign a book? You didn't see that in here, right? So Sora is the end user experience. It's for reading. It's for you as a teacher to read. It's for the student to read in. It's for you as a teacher to help a student use for reading. But if you want to do something like make an assignment to a student, we have an admin tool that we have access to, and that I'm going to show you how you could use. So even I kindly set up an account that teachers can use, which I know they're going to work on figuring out how that looks. But I wanted to show you what it looks like to make an assignment to a student using one of those Project Gutenberg books. So if you wanted to have a whole class read like the Jungle Book or something like that, you could, and they can do it here, and that's something available right now. So, let me get back into the main page here.
And they've got this icon on their Clever dashboard as well. Some of you may have
Oh,
to
yeah?
clear your cache and cookies because it cached the old site. But then you'll see, it will say Overdrive Marketplace now.
Perfect. Okay. So we will make sure if you want to make an assignment that you will have the info to get into the account for Overdrive Marketplace. Now, you're not going to see as many features as I have available to me. You're just going to see when you log in, it will show you this page actually, news and updates. So you'll have access to news and updates, and you'll have access to support. This is an extra login just for teachers to use. So you can contact support. Maybe, it's a little bit beyond what you think Sora support might be able to handle, or you have a question. And I think it may not have my information on there, but we'll make sure everyone has that. But you will also have access to what we call a title assignments tool. So it's going to be under this admin menu called title assignments. This is a super easy way for you to assign a book to a student. Now, you can see here there's a calendar. This is great because when you log in, you can see who's assigned other books. Now, if you're using the Project Gutenberg books, you don't have to worry about that because there's unlimited copies. But, if we get to the point where maybe we have 30 copies of something else, you're going to want to see if somebody else has that during your time frame, because you might have to decide to do something else. So you can see here we have an assignment for the Christmas Carol. I have an assignment for the Jungle Book. I'm going to go ahead and create an assignment. So all you have to do is click this green button. We try and make this easy for you. We're going to search for a book. So I want to do The Wizard of Oz. So we have lots of options here. What you want to look for is this thing that says Own SU. That means simultaneous use. Everyone can access it. Otherwise, you can see how many copies are available, but this SU means everyone can access it. So we're going to do The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. I'm going to select that. Now I do have to select if I'm from Gen Prep, IDEA, or if I'm the other staff. So I'm still the other staff, so we're going to do that. Pick your start date. We'll start it tomorrow. Your end date, which can be for 6 months even, which I think is really excessive, but maybe, let's do 2 months, which is still quite a lot. And you as a teacher are going to enter your email because you want to know when this goes through and get an email notification, and it will say, this book has been assigned to your students, it's available for them. And then I just add the user ID. So this is where you have to add your students' emails. So we're hopefully going to get it so you can pick your class. In the future, you can just pick yourself, pick your class. We'll integrate that fully, but right now, you just enter the students' emails that they log in with through Clever. So I don't have an email, so I'm just going to enter my guest login. And then I just click Create Assignments. It says I need to review it. Okay, I'm good with it. I save. And then it will process overnight and be ready for me tomorrow in my assignments page. And then when I go back to Sora, I'll now see I have the Jungle Book and I have the Wonderful Wizard of Oz assigned to me. And we put those first because those are typically books that are obviously a little bit more important for the students to be reading, and we want to make sure that's front and center for them. Okay, let me pop back over to this PowerPoint. So I went over the assignments. It's just a screen capture of that. So we're going to open it up for questions if we have any more. If you have had questions, chat them in, everyone. Feel free to chat those in if you haven't already. But I'm going to leave you with some tools to help because this was a lot. This was fast. And you have some great people here supporting you, and we have a lot of tools available for you. So one, I'm going to recommend, obviously install Sora on your personal devices. Try it out. I'm going to show you where there's some materials. Some of you got the Sora sunglasses and some documents. We have other materials that everyone can download and use. You can host a training session. We're doing that here, so hopefully you don't need to, but if you have any other staff that missed this and you want to teach it to them, or you want to host a training session for your kids, and then you can visit the help website. So all of these links are available in this presentation, which I'll make sure that you guys have access to. But there's the help section We have some videos too. So if you want to send a video home, digitally to students' parents, just to say, you know what, we learned about this. I'm gonna have your students reading in Sora. If they have questions while they're at home, just watch this video. You'll be able to use it with them just like that. There's some how-to guides, other digital materials that you can send as well. And we do have other help materials. And then I'm the account manager where it says reach out to your account manager. That's me. You can reach out to Eve. We work together on all of this too. And let's see. Oh, Q&A. So do we have any other questions? And we'll check for virtual questions too.
Namba said they have a question.
Do we have any questions, friends? Lori just told me that.
Oh.
Okay. I'll ask it because others might have the same question.
Okay.
Huh?
No. So we've had one question about whether or not how people access Marketplace to assign something. Eve will be sending you those directions. So we'll get those out tonight or tomorrow.
Perfect.
Actually, Sonia's already sent it out in the documents, the login.
Oh, okay, great.
It's one login.
The password.
Oh, I asked Annette, it was just if we're allowed to create a personal account and use the school library to get access to books if we want to.
I think that's.
She said that at the beginning that it's for your personal use and for.
Yeah. So Lori, can you hear us in Meridian?
That really expands their options. That'd
For
be
sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
And if you want to assign some Gutenberg Press books, I looked for younger readers too, so I found things like Beatrix Potter, and so there are options in there. If you need help with that, we can help you do that.
And the documents that Sonia sent has a list of younger ones, titles in there as well.
Perfect. But yeah, and you can just, we have that whole collection there, but you can just search by title for anything and you can see if, that's one of those books.
Under collections, there's a teacher resource collection that has some good PD books if you're interested in checking something out yourself and trying it on your phone or your device.
You can show that right here.
Teacher's Lounge, yes, is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think that's what it was called. So, I need to click on the collections. Oh, I'm in the public library.
That's fine, I just.
So
Lori, this is Meridian. Can you hear us?
Want to click back to the school. I was like, those are weird. I don't think we did that.
I know.
So yeah, so here's the teachers there, guys. You do have some professional learning books available.
It's like a ratio.
Yeah, can you go back to Marketplace for just a second? Show one more thing there. When you're
They can
searching
see
the
us.
Title where it asks to put in the email address, if you could please use your own email address there, because right now all teachers are using the same login. So that way we can see who did assign that book by filling in your email address there.
So this is Meridian. Can you hear us?
One of our teachers has asked, as a teacher, can I adjust the narration speed for them since they may not be able to do it themselves?
That's a good question. So you wouldn't be able to do that outside of their account. So you would have to be like with the student and kind of helping them or logging in as them if you can do that. But yeah, if you log in as a student, you can adjust it, it saves it. That's the nice thing when you're in any of the books, any preferences you set stick. So if I use, my school computer, but then I'm on my phone, the preference sticks with you because it's tied to your account. So that way you don't have to adjust it every single time you open it on any device.
And would it save? So if you change the narration speed, then the teacher like came and helped a student, it would
Yeah.
save that.
And some of the settings, I don't know about the narration speed, but some of the settings will stick with you through other books. So if you change your font on one book and then you borrow another book, it'll use that font for you too. Not sure about that narration speed, if that will jump to another book too, but it might. I haven't tried that one.
Like if we downloaded the Sora app to our phone, I did that before, but I don't log in through Clever. So I just log in with my
You can do
ID, email, and password. Still, it'll know I'm not coming through Clever.
You can though download the Clever app and go through Clever on your phone too.
And just so for the gym teachers know that the overall school name is under Ideal, you will see that first, and then it'll ask you for the divisions between Ideal and gym. So don't get confused by that. You are in the right one when you first go in.
Yeah, it starts there and then begins to pick there.
Yeah, and nobody's asked this question yet, but maybe you already know, but our school settings for our library usage for titles, checked out at once, up to in 4 weeks for each checkout.
I had a question about, can we lock kids into a Lexile level? I do not believe so.
You can't lock them, but I can show you how you can search by it to help filter. And
You could assign them to what you want.
you could assign a book based on the Lexile. In the assignment tool, you don't have to assign like a whole class. You can assign one book, as I was mentioning, like if a student needs an audiobook and they're gonna need it for 6 weeks, you can assign one copy to a student. You don't have to think of this just as a classroom read. You can do one person at a time. So you couldn't lock them into it, but when you're searching, you can set the Lexile scores. We have ranges you can pick, so you can pick those here. And then we have like text difficulty too, and interest level, which might be of interest. So you could say like, well, their Lexile is this, but they really like to read up. So you could see if you can play around with those to see if something might, come up for you.
So we have one other question. Teachers want to know if they're allowed to have a personal account to read from the library. All teachers have an Overdrive account already set up, which is now a Sora account. So yes, you may check things out and read from here. I have done it many times. It's awesome. You can also connect your personal library to your account and expand your reading options.
Yes.
So those are all available for staff.
And I will mention too for teachers, since like I said, it is limiting the public library just to the kids and teens title. If you're an adult and want to read an adult book, you can try out our partner app, Libby. It's just Libby. If you haven't tried it yet, it looks very similar, and you can access everything from the public library through Libby. So as a teacher, you might have both apps for your own use.
Or just the Overdrive app, right?
Or
That's what
that,
I use
yeah.
for all my libraries.
Yeah. So that's an option too, if you wanted to read something for your own personal that you couldn't access here. Because there are adult books, they're just not in Sora.
If you're traveling over the holidays, the audiobooks are a real hit when you're traveling. And so check it out. You can use this with your own kids, grandkids, like all kinds of uses.
And right now, the teachers and paras are all in as well. And other staff, it'd be if you want to add in your receptionist, you just need to let me know. Anybody else that we want to add in that's not under one of those categories.
We have a question in Nampa. The teachers and the principal have logged in using the code and the password, and they got error messages when they tried to assign staff members with a book and when teachers tried to assign students a book.
Yeah. So if you have this issue when you try to make an assignment and it says it's not recognized, if you're only doing one user, this can happen because that user has never signed in to Sora or Overdrive before. So it's not recognizing. Our system is set up for the assignments that if you say put 10 people in there, if at least one user has used Overdrive before, we recognize it and say, you're all good. But if you only put one in and that one person has never used it, we're saying, we don't know if you put in the right email, it's a safeguard. So if you have them sign in, then it should work.
And you
But
can
I'm
see,
seeing they're saying they've logged in.
yeah, that they're
before.
logged in before and like they're logged in now.
Since they're in it now.
It might take a little while to recognize.
Maybe,
Yeah.
I might just have to look into that, because that's my only understanding of why it wouldn't work. Because it would just be their full email, right? And we had that problem, but we got that to work for you guys, and then it was fine, so I thought that there wasn't.
So we'll look again tomorrow morning. We may have to do some troubleshooting to get things ironed out. But I think for teachers, if you can show your students how to search in Sora now, because it's gonna look different for them than Overdrive did. Once they've all logged in and they've all checked out a book or found something, then when we go to assign, we should be able to do that. And we'll play around with it on our end tomorrow morning. Sometimes it takes 24 hours for some things to sync. So we'll take a look tomorrow morning, and if it's not working, we'll work with Melissa and her team to figure it out.
Yeah, just let us know, send us if they're not going through. I can have someone like look into something and be like, oh yeah, that's why, and make adjustments and fix it, or that's a problem, so, yeah. Likely, once we figure out a couple people, then everyone else will probably work for the rest of time.
Melissa, thank you. We are super excited. This is an awesome resource. There are lots of different ways that we can use it. Even if you don't teach language arts, I hope you see different ways that you can use it. We've got lots of books, and if you want specific books, you need to let Eve know. And we just added
We just added a ton of
a
titles.
whole bunch of new titles. Even I went on a major shopping spree. We used the wish list from the kids and from teachers, and added a whole bunch of new books. We've got lots of new books for winter, and we'll continue adding books throughout the year.